everyone, welcome to the final round of the 2023 Dwight National Shakespeare Competition. I'm Michael Weisenfeld. I'm the head of the English department here at Dwight, New York, and I am honored to be your host today. Dwight has been a part of this prestigious competition since it began, back in 1975. It was established by Paul Beresford Hill. He was an English teacher who later became headmaster of the Anglo-American School, which itself later merged with Dwight. In the 48 years since its beginning, this competition has gone national. And now, more than 25,000 students compete across the country every year. Here at Dwight, all high school students from grades 9 through 12 recorded performance videos for their English classes as part of the preliminary rounds. From there, select students advanced to the semifinal rounds, which were judged by the entire English department. And then, 3 students per grade, 9 through 12, advanced to what you are seeing today, the final round of this competition. These 12 finalists have recorded passionate, compelling monologues, which will be judged on voice, body movement, expressions, and emotion. And that judging will be conducted by a panel of guest experts. First, we have Ms. Kangas, Dwight's drama teacher for Timothy House. Ms. Kangas has a degree in acting, has worked as a professional actor, has performed in many Shakespeare plays herself, and has spent years as an English teacher, a drama teacher, and a director of numerous shows. We are grateful to have her expertise on the panel today. Next, we have Ms. Jinman, Dwight's lower school librarian. Ms. Jinman has multiple degrees in literature. She taught English for years and even spent time as a forensics coach. Forensics, in this case, being competitive speech competitions. We also have Ms. Aquadro. Ms. Aquadro used to work here at Dwight for 12 years in the English and Quest departments and now serves as the head of English of Dwight Online. She has multitudes of experience when it comes to both teaching and judging Shakespeare, and we warmly welcome her back into the folds of this competition as a member of our guest judging panel today. We also have a special non-faculty guest judge, Class of 2022 graduate Bernardo Sequeira. When Bernardo was a student here at Dwight, he was a grade winner 3 years running. He represented Dwight at the New York regional level twice, and even once in 2020 advanced to the national level of this competition. Right now, as a proud alumnus of Dwight, Bernardo is up at Harvard University, studying, perhaps not surprisingly, drama. Lastly, we have our permanent judge, Mr. Chris Gow. He grew up in the theater. He has directed Dwight's productions for more than 2 decades. He himself has acted in more than a dozen Shakespeare plays. His expertise, as always, anchors our judging panel for this competition. Now that we know the setup, let's raise the curtain on these performances. We begin with our 9th grade finalists, and the Shakespeare play that most Shakespearean actors will never actually say by name. They fear that doing so will curse their production. Instead, they simply call it the Scottish play. We, here, can call it Macbeth. The title character is a lord who receives a prophecy from witches that he will be king. But his wife, the brilliant and brutal Lady Macbeth, thinks her husband is too gentle to ever grab the throne on his own. So, she pushes him to murder the king in order that he, her husband, can become king. Then, Macbeth kind of gets the hang of it. He hires assassins to kill his friend Banquo. He sends soldiers to kill the family of the Thane of Fife, and worse. In the speech you're about to hear, which takes place at the end of this play, Lady Macbeth's evil ambition has caught up to her, and she is deteriorating. She thinks in sorrow and horror of all those who have died. She feels the guilt of what she started, here symbolized by blood on her hands that she can never wash away. For our first performance of the competition, we welcome Nyla Bruning-Chai.
spot. Out! Damned spot! Out, I say! 1, 2. Why then it's time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord! Fie! A soldier and a feared? What need we fear? Who knows it? When none can call our power to account. Yet, who would have thought the old man to have so much blood in him? The fate of Phi had a wife. Where is she now? What? Will these hands never be clean? No more of that, my lord. No more of that. You moral with this starting. Here's the smell of blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Oh! 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 Wash your hands. Put on your nightgown. Look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo's barren. He cannot come out of his grave. To bed. To bed. There's the knocking at the gate. Come, 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 come. Give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed. To bed. To bed.
For our next performance, we stay with Macbeth, but move from Lady Macbeth to the witches themselves, those who pronounced the prophecy that started this entire evil undoing. In this scene that you're about to see, the witches are brewing a potion with a descriptive and frankly disgusting recipe. Some of you may recognize these ingredients and incantations as John Williams, the composer for the Harry Potter films, turned this infamous moment from Shakespeare with Macbeth's witches into a song that was performed by the Frog Choir in the film Prisoner of Azkaban. For us today, casting the spell of his own take on this entrancing scene, we have Oliver Wyatt.
Round about the cauldron go, in the poison entrails throw, toad that under cold stone, days and nights has 31. Sweltered venom, sleeping god, boil thou first tith-charmed pot, double, double toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble, fillet of fenny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, adder's fork and blindworm's sting, lizard's leg and howlet's wing, for a charm of powerful trouble, like a hell broth boil and bubble. Add thereto a tiger's trodden, for tith the ingredients of our cauldron. Cool it with a baboon's blood, till the charm is firm and good. By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes. Thank you.
We now return to Lady Macbeth and that damned spot of blood. But for a different interpretation of this famous monologue, we welcome Ella Knox.
Yet here's a spot. Out, damn spot. Out, I say. to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord. Fie, a soldier and afeard. What need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Yet who would have thought the old man to have so much blood in him? Fain if I've had a wife, where is she now? What will these hands that near me clean? No more of that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting. Here's the smell of blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not be able to sweeten this little hand. Wash your hands. Put on your nightgown. Look not so pale, I tell you yet again. Banquo's buried. He cannot come out of his grave. To bed. To bed. There's a knocking at the gate. Come. 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 Give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed. To bed. To bed.
As we now move on to our 10th grade finalists, we also move on to one of what's known as Shakespeare's problem plays, because at times it's a lighthearted comedy, but at other times a piercing tragedy. This is Measure for Measure. The premise here is that Isabella's brother has gotten a woman pregnant, but the brother and the woman are not married, and at that time, in that place, which is Vienna, that's against the law. Isabella's brother is sentenced to death by Angelo, an unmerciful man who is temporarily in charge of law enforcement in Vienna. In this scene, Isabella, who is a nun, is pleading with Angelo to spare her brother's life, arguing that you can separate the fault from the man who committed it. She believes her brother has done wrong, yes, but she still asks Angelo to search within himself for understanding and to show forgiveness. For this moving speech, we turn to Olivia Beale.
There is a vice that most I do abhor, and most desire should meet the blow of justice, for which I would not plead, but that I must, for which I must not plead, but that I am at war twixt will and will not. I have a brother is condemned to die. I do beseech you, let it be his fault, but not my brother. If he had been as you and you as he, you would have slipped like him. But he like you would not have been so stern. We cannot weigh our brother with ourself. Great men may jest with saints, 'tis wit in them, but in the less foul profanation. Because authority, though it err like others, hath yet a kind of medicine in itself that skins the vice over the top. Go to your bosom, knock there, and ask your heart what it doth know that's like my brother's fault. And if it confess a natural guiltiness such as is his, let it not sound a thought upon your tongue against my brother's life.
Next, we have perhaps the most famous speech and the most famous opening line in all of English literature. It's Hamlet asking, to be or not to be? In the play, Hamlet is a prince mourning the death of his father, the king, and like everyone else, Hamlet believed that his father died when he was bitten by a snake while taking a nap. But Hamlet then sees his father's ghost, who tells him that it actually wasn't a snake bite that killed him. It was in fact murder by the king's own brother, Hamlet's uncle. The ghost begs Hamlet to avenge his death, but Hamlet is uncertain, distressed, and woefully insecure in his own thoughts and emotions and intentions. In this speech, Hamlet turns to a more philosophical approach to his dilemma, wondering whether it would actually be better for him to die, to try to find peace in the afterlife, than it would be for him to live his own traumatic life. For these classic lines, we turn to McPhee Gleason.
To be or not to be? That is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing, end them. To die. To sleep. No more. And by asleep, to say we end the heartache and the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly we wished. To die. To sleep. To sleep. Perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that death, what dreams may come. When we've shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sickled o'er with the pale cast of thought. And great enterprises of pitch and moment with this regard, the currents turn awry and lose the name of action.
We stay with tragedy now and turn back to one last interpretation of Lady Macbeth's unwashable hands with our last finalist from the 10th grade, Mia Rasmussen.
Yet, here's a spot. Out, damn spot! Out, I say! 1, 2. Why then, 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. Fie, my lord, fie! A soldier and a feared? What need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Yet, who would have thought that the old man would have so much blood in him? Oh! Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What will these hands ne'er be clean? Oh, oh, oh. No more of that, my lord. No more of that. You bear all with the starting. is the smell of the blood still. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Oh, oh, oh. Wash your hands, put on your nightgown. Look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Bancombe's buried. He cannot come out to this grave. To bed. To bed. There's knocking at the gate. Come, come, come. Give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed. To bed. To bed.
We now turn to our 11th grade finalists, and another of Shakespeare's problem plays, in this case, The Merchant of Venice, which deals not so squarely with comedy or tragedy or history, but instead with morality and bigotry. The title character, the merchant, is Shylock. He's a moneylender, and importantly, he's Jewish. Antonio went to Shylock to borrow money, but Antonio liked to mock and abuse Shylock for charging interest on his loans, and for being Jewish. So, when Shylock agreed to lend Antonio money, he did it on the condition that if Antonio ended up not being able to pay him back the money, Antonio would have to pay him back with a pound of his own flesh. In the scene you're about to see, Shylock has just learned that Antonio likely won't be able to repay the loan. So someone asks Shylock if he'll really insist on the pound of flesh repayment. Shylock says he will, and in this speech, he explains why. For it, we turn to Hayden Lucas.
You have disgraced me and hindered me $500,000, laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, cooled my friends, heated my enemies, and what's his reason? I am a Jew. Hath not a Jew eyes? Hath not a Jew hands? Organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions? Fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is? If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why, revenge! The villainy you teach me, I will execute. And it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction.
We move on to what many scholars consider Shakespeare's most bloody play, Titus Andronicus. The title character is the leader of the Roman army, who becomes the new emperor, and who gets locked into a cycle of violence and vengeance with his enemies. In the scene you're about to see, Titus has returned to Rome victorious, but after having lost almost all of his sons in battle. But he has captured Tamora, the strong and passionate queen of the Goths, as well as her 3 sons. Now, Titus intends to kill Tamora's eldest son right there, right in front of her, as retribution for the death of his own children. In this speech, Tamora eloquently but frantically pleads with Titus to be merciful and to spare her son's life. For these heart-rending lines, we turn to Brooke Radosevich.
Stay! Roman brethren, gracious conqueror, victorious Titus, rue the tears I shed, a mother's tears and passion for her son. And if thy son were ever dear to thee, oh, think my son be as dear to me. Suffice it not that we were brought to Rome to beautify thy triumphs and return captive to thee into thy Roman yoke? Oh, if to fight for king and commonweal were a piety in thine, it is in these, Andronicus. Stain not thy tomb with blood. Wilt thou draw near the nature of the gods? Draw near them then in being merciful. Sweet mercy is nobility's true badge. Thrice, noble Titus, spare my firstborn son.
From Shakespeare's bloodiest play, we turn back to his most tragic, Hamlet. Remember, Hamlet has been ordered by his father's ghost to avenge the murder of his father by his uncle. This scene now has Prince Hamlet suffering even yet more indecision, fearing for his own sanity, unsure of whether to actually believe the ghost about his uncle's guilt. And Hamlet, well, he has his own guilt and his own inferiority and his own self-pity. Hamlet feels burdened by the responsibility to avenge his father, while simultaneously remains uncertain as to whether he would even have the courage to actually take that vengeance at all. To portray all of this turmoil, we turn to Allegra Masterson.
Am I a coward? Who calls me villain? Breaks my pate across, plucks off my beard and blows it in my face, tweaks me by the nose, gives me the lie of the throat as deep as to the lungs. Who does me this? Ha! Swoons. I should take it, for it cannot be but I am pigeon-livered and lack gall to make oppression bitter. Or ere this, I should have fed all the raging kites with this slave's awful, bloody, dowdy villain, remorseless, treacherous, lecherous, kindless villain! Oh, vengeance! Why, what an ass am I? This is most brave, that I, the son of a dear father murdered, prompted to my revenge by both heaven and hell, must, like a whore, unpack my heart with words, and fall a-cursing like a very drab.
stallion. Oh, fie upon its foe! About my brains.
We now move on to our 12th grade finalists and the world's most famous and most tragic romance, Romeo and Juliet. Of course, the two main characters fall in love, but they're torn apart by their family's rivalry and by Romeo's exile for killing Tybalt, Juliet's cousin. In this scene early in the play, Romeo's friend Mercutio is stumbling home from a party when he learns that Tybalt has challenged Romeo to a duel. In the speech you're about to hear, Mercutio contemplates Romeo's lovesickness, Tybalt's dueling skills, which are significant, as well as the annoying language that some people use to describe both. For these lines, we turn to Lily Ventura.
Last poor Romeo's already dead. Stabbed with the white wench's black eye, run through the ear with a love song. The very pin of his heart cleft with the blind bellboy's butt shaft. And is he a man to encounter Tybalt? He fights as you sing prick song, keeps time, distance, proportion. He rests his minimum rest 1, 2, and the third in your bosom. The very butcher of a silk button, a duelist, a gentleman of the first house, of the first and second cause. The amorve pasado, the punto reverso, hey! The pox of such antic, lisping, affecting fantasy. This new tuners of action, by just a very good blade, a very tall man, a very good whore. Why is not this a lamentable thing, grandsire, that we should be thus afflicted with these strange flies, these fashionmongers, these pardonlees, who sit so much on the new ground that they cannot sit at ease on the old bench? Oh, they're bones, they're bones.
Next, we meet the title character from Shakespeare's famous tragedy, Othello. Othello is a proud, brave man who dearly loves his wife, Desdemona. However, Othello's trusted ensign, Iago, is actually traitorous. Iago conspires to convince Othello that Desdemona has been unfaithful to him. In the scene you're about to see, Othello stands over his wife Desdemona as she peacefully sleeps. He plans to murder her for her infidelity and for the hurt that he thinks she has caused him. However, as you'll see, Othello is torn apart. He keeps reminding himself that he has reason for ending her life, yes, but he also treasures her beauty and her sweetness and his conflicted love for her, as he cannot keep himself from kissing her, even as he stands ready to kill her. For this tense moment, we turn to Julian Vasquez.
It is to cause my soul. Let me not name it to you, you chaste star, it is to cause. Yet I'll not shed her blood, nor scar that whiter skin of hers than snow, and smooth as monumental alabaster. Yet she must die, else she'll betray more men. Put out the light, and then put out the light. If I quench thee, thy flaming minister, I can again thy former light restore. Should I repent me when I have plucked the rose? I cannot give it vital growth again, for it needs must wither. I'll smell it on the tree. Oh, balmy breath that dost almost persuade Justice to break her sword, One more and one more. Be thus. When thou art dead, I will kill thee, and love thee after. One more, and this the last. So sweet, was never so fatal. I must weep. But they are cruel tears. It sorrows heavenly. It strikes where it doth love. She wakes.
We end with not a comedy or a tragedy, but a history. Shakespeare's Henry VI, Part 3. Henry is the King of England who disinherits his own son to change the line of succession. Richard is a side character at first, a younger brother of a rival claimant to the throne. But in this play, Richard starts his journey toward becoming one of the most ambitious, bloodthirsty, unapologetically ruthless characters in all of Shakespeare. In this scene, Richard kills Henry and watches him die slowly. Richard, as this is happening, describes how he considers himself to be different. And yes, indeed, Richard is physically different. He's deformed. He has a humpback and a shriveled arm, but he's almost perversely proud of his defects, of his abnormal birth as well, feet first and already with teeth. He resolves that since he's almost inhuman to begin with, and is alone and unloved, he might as well act like it, starting with this murder. Here, with our final performance of the competition, is Ava Kimmel.
See how my sword weeps for the poor king's death. Oh, may such purple tears be always shed from those that wish the downfall of our house. If any spark of life be yet remaining, down to hell, and say I sent thee thither. I that have neither pity, love, nor fear. Indeed, 'tis true that Henry told me of, for I have often heard my mother say I came into the world with my legs forward. Had I not reason, think you, to make haste and seek their ruin that usurped our right? The midwife wondered, and the woman cried, "Oh, Jesus, bless us, he is born with teeth." And so I was, which plainly signified that I should snarl and bite and play the dog. Then, since the heavens have shaped my body so, let hell make crooked my mind to answer it. I have no brother. I like no brother. And this word, love, which graybeards call divine, be resident in men like one another. And not in me. I am myself alone.
We've now reached the end of our performances. I need to thank our guest judges, Ms. Kangas, Ms. Jinman, Ms. Aquadro, Bernardo Sequeira, and Mr. Christgau for lending their time and their expertise. I also need to express a special thanks, as always, to Dwight drama teacher Ms. Gazowski. As she does every year, she spent hours lending her theater director experience to individually coaching these finalists, helping them to refine these passionate performances. Lastly, my gratefulness to our high school English teachers, Ms. Ballard, Ms. Blaine, Mr. Farina, Ms. Fives, Ms. Johnson, Ms. Katagiri, Ms. Roth, Ms. Waldron, and Mr. Walter, who shepherded all of these students through the preliminary rounds and who judged the semifinal round. We will be announcing the winners of our competition next week, and we will send those announcements to all members of the Dwight community. Until then, everyone, we hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you.